The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. First things first, congratulations to our guy, Jaden Daniels, a.k.a. JD5, a.k.a. the assassin, the cold-blooded assassin, Mr. I Got 5 on it, for bringing home the AP Offensive Rookie of the Year. We knew it was a foregone conclusion, but it was finalized tonight at the NFL Honors Award Show. He almost won unanimously. There's always got to be one clown somewhere to not allow it to be a unanimous decision. He got 49 first place votes out of 50. The lone other vote went to Brock Bowers, who had a phenomenal year. Obviously, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, rookie season we've ever seen from a tight end. Hell, one of the best seasons we've seen from a tight end in NFL history in general. But it still wasn't better than Jaden Daniels' season, and everyone has spoken. Bo Nix came in third. So there you have it. Maybe that one vote came from LB as far as Jaden not being unanimously voted offensive rookie of the year. Yeah, I said that right. So well deserved. We knew it was coming. And I can't wait to see what he does for a second act. I can't wait to watch this team play football again, honestly. It's going to be bittersweet on Sunday watching the Eagles play, knowing that we were 60 minutes away from being in that exact spot. But it also gives me a sense of excitement, a sense of pride, a sense of motivation, almost. Not like I'm playing or anything, but as a fan, you know that this team is close. Despite not having all of the pieces that they need to be considered one of the best teams talent-wise in the NFL, they made it to the Final Four. And we know that we're going to take another step, and we won't be there after this season. None of us are foolish enough to think that this overhaul of the roster is a 2-year process. Last year was the ground floor. It was setting a foundation. This year, you're going to add to the foundation. By year 3, I think we'll be looking around and saying, we've got one of the best rosters in this conference, not necessarily in the league. We've got one of the better rosters in this conference to complement one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And you should be able to compete with anybody once you can say that. By year 4, as we get to the end of Jaden's rookie contract, I think that's when we'll be able to say we've got one of the best rosters in football. But tonight is a video that is going to help us kind of take steps towards getting to that point as we look to fill in some of the holes that exist on this roster. We've got a ton of guys that, they've got decisions to make as far as re-signing, bringing them back here, but also looking for outside help to come in and bolster this roster. So we're going to go free agent hunting for the Commanders. And I'm going to try to get inside the mind of one GM, Chef P, a.k.a. Adam Peters, a.k.a. AP, because I know that there's a prototypical player that Dan Quinn likes, that Joe Witt Jr. likes, that, some of the coaches on this staff like. So we're going to try to find players that kind of fit that mold, also fit what it means to be a Commander now that we have established an identity think there are some options that may fit some of the things. Because, you know, having looked at, and we're going to take an extensive look, tonight is a free agent primer of all primers. We're going to take a look at every single position that the free agency pool has to offer. And what you're going to find, which I've found out already. If you haven't already taken a look at it, you'll find out tonight. If you've already taken a look, then you already know this. There's not a lot here, right? There's not a lot of stuff that gets you truly excited, which is fine because you do not build your team through free agency. You build your team through the draft. So it's not a big deal. At the end of the day, let's get to the first order of business tonight. And that is Tee Higgins. So you can't talk free agency with this team and not bring up Tee Higgins. Tee Higgins, to me, is the belle of the ball this year. Every year, there's one guy that stands atop the list of free agents to be and separates himself from the rest of the crop. The guy that everybody's going to be after, that has enough money to afford said player. And Tee Higgins is that guy this season. So with that said, we are among probably 5 to 7 teams that should be in the mix for his services should he become a free agent. I say should he because I had an interesting conversation with a buddy of mine today. And we were talking, he lives in Ohio. And he isn't a Bengals fan, but he sort of adopted them as a pseudo team, so to speak, because he lives there. He's lived there for maybe the last 5 to 7 years. That's all they talk about when it's football season. He's become an Ohio State Buckeyes fan because, again, that's all they talk about during football season. And so he's well versed in the Cincinnati Bengals situation. And he was the first person to tell me this year, before the season even started, before they even played their first game, he said, I'm telling you, man, Cincinnati's not going to have a good season. And I wasn't trying to hear that because they got Joe Burrow. They got one of them ones. I'm like, what are you talking about? What we didn't know at the time was their defense was going to be absolute horse shit. We did not know that there would be injuries that would, compromise them. But overall, their defense was the main culprit. They started off the season slow offensively the first 2 weeks without Tee Higgins. They picked it up tremendously from weeks 3, pretty much the rest of the season when they were healthy enough. The defense was awful from start to finish, essentially. So he told me, he said, you cannot thrive in the environment that they created this offseason. Remember, they had the Trey Hendrickson saga where he wanted to be traded because he wanted to be paid like one of the best pass rushers in the league. Then he goes out and leads the league in sacks to sort of back up the, to back up his claim of wanting to be paid more, to kind of reflect what he had been doing for the life of his Cincinnati Bengals contract. He wanted his pay to represent his play and reflect his play. And he just went and did it again. And now he's got 1 year left. And I think they're going to be in the same position with him. And he deserves to be paid. But that saga was going on this summer. Obviously, the Jamar Chase thing took on a life of its own. And we saw how that impacted them in week 1 of the season in the loss to New England. So that was an issue. Tee Higgins also was an issue. He ended up getting franchise tagged. He wanted a long-term deal. It did not happen. And then he got injured and didn't play. in the first couple of games. And so that was an issue. They had offensive line issues, and then the defense wasn't very good. So he said it's just a lot going on, too many things for you to have a successful season, and he was right. So you fast forward to present day, and we were having a conversation about the Bengals. And so this is the same buddy that I told you guys, he was enamored with our squad this year, with Jaden Daniels, with how polarizing of a team we were because of Jaden Daniels. He essentially became a Jaden Daniels fan in terms of must-see TV. He talked about this is the first quarterback that drew him in this manner since Michael Vick, which I said, I totally get it. I understand. So towards the middle to end portion of the season, he was really high on our team. And he asked me about our offseason, and I told him, the first target for us is Tee Higgins. And he's like, man, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, here's what I think is going to happen. So in my mind, for some reason, just like Trey Hendrickson, I thought Jamar Chase was going into the final year of his, or was in the final year of his deal. He was going to be a free agent. Of course, he's not going to be. He's still got one more year. They picked up his 5th-year option last year. So he's going into that 5th and final year of his rookie contract, because he was drafted the year after Burrow in 2021. So 21, 22, 23, 24. That's the season we just had. And now he's got the 25 season. So he's going into the final year. So they need to pay him this offseason so that they don't get into the same predicament that they're in with Tee Higgins. But he brought that up because Chase is under contract. And technically speaking, they don't have to do anything, right, with Jamar Chase, just like they didn't do anything with him last year. The expectation is that they'll pay him this year, because you don't want to be in this position with Jamar Chase next year. Then you have to franchise tag him, and then it could get messy. So to avoid all of that, the prevailing thought is they're going to pay him. But let's just say that they don't, or even if they do, it really doesn't matter, because that first year cap hit number could be extremely low based off of how they set the contract up. You get the signing bonus and all of that upfront money. You don't have to make the cap number and the cap hit for the first year all that expensive. So forget about all of that. The bottom line is Tee Higgins was paid just a shade over $21 million on the franchise tag last year. No offer was made to him on a long-term deal of more than $18 million, which is where the talks broke off. He said, unless you've got a real number for me, there's nothing to talk about. They didn't have a real number for him, so they just franchise tagged him, and that was that. You fast forward to now, Tee Higgins is going to be paid anywhere from $28 to $31 million on the open market. That's what I see, right? Based off of how many suitors he has, based off of his production and what he's been in the league and what you project him to be moving forward, he's going to be paid somewhere in that neighborhood, okay? The Bengals were not even remotely close. However, this is what my buddy said, and now this is where things get a little interesting, and I'm going to ask you guys how you feel about this. Joe Burrow earlier today reiterated, this is not the first time Joe Burrow has made this statement. He said this before. So this is not new news, but this is something that is becoming an issue for teams like us who are thirsty out here for a guy like Tee Higgins to join our team, that Joe Burrow is willing to restructure and even take less money if he has to fit Tee Higgins under the Bengals salary cap so that they can keep the nucleus and core of their offense together. Burrow has been on record multiple times saying as such, hey, I'll do what it takes to keep these guys here. I want Chase and Higgins here. And Higgins wants to stay in Cincinnati. I've always told you, as long as you don't have any bad experience with the organization, most guys want to stay with the team that drafted them. Okay? You want to re-sign a contract with that team. Now, as you get later into your career, like Myles Garrett, for instance, you get to a point where you want to win. And if you don't see a path to doing that, you may ask out. But he's already signed an extension with Cleveland Browns, as Myles Garrett. Most players want to stay where they're signed or drafted to originally. So that's no different for Tee Higgins. Even though he was disappointed in how the contractual situation went last year, he wants to be back in Cincinnati. But if they're not going to pay him, he's going to go where he's wanted, right? So with Joe Burrow continuously saying, and normally teams and organizations look to appease their star quarterback, Bengals are a little different. They march to the beat of their own drum, right? They're not the typical NFL organization. They don't give a shit what their players want, including their star quarterback, right? So that, Joe Burrow, what he wants doesn't necessarily move the needle in this particular situation. But what does move the needle is if Joe puts his money where his mouth is. And I don't think Joe's bullshitting here. If Joe needs to restructure his contract so that Tee Higgins can be back, I think Joe's willing to do that. Now, here's where things get interesting. My buddy said Tee Higgins was franchise tagged last year. And I'm like, yep. He's like, I think they're going to franchise tag him again this year. And I was like, you think they're going to pay him that money? He said, I already did the math. It'll be $26 million. If you paid him 21 last year, what's stopping you from paying him $26 million this year? And I just thought to myself, it's more money. But if Joe Burrow's willing to take less or restructure his deal, push some money back to the back of the contract, because we all know he's not getting to the end of his contract. By the time there's 2 years left on that contract, they're going to tear that contract up, give him an extension, give him new money. And so they can, push money back if they want, give him some upfront money, all of that good stuff, right? Lower the cap number so that they can fit Tee Higgins, so they can afford $5 more million under the cap this year. So he said, here's what I think they're going to do. They're either going to franchise tag him to keep him with the intent on keeping him here, because they're not going to, like, Joe Burrow restructuring his contract isn't going to net them, I don't think, a new deal unless Tee Higgins is willing to take far below market value for his services, which could be the case. I think Tee Higgins isn't giving them any type of hometown discount. I don't think that's taking place. So they're going to have to franchise tag him unless they come at him with a number that makes sense for him to stay in Cincinnati. And I don't think they're going to do that. So to take the control out of his hands, my buddy said he thinks they're going to franchise tag him and do like the Chiefs did with L'Jarius Sneed and try to tag and trade him. And I said, really? He's like, yeah. Think they're going to try to tag and trade him. And if they can't find a trade partner, they'll just hold on to him. It's $26 million. They can afford it. Especially if Joe Burrow takes that restructure, right? So my question to you is this. What if Tee Higgins not only has to be paid, but cost you draft capital as well? How would you feel about that? Now, I'm extremely petty in situations like this. And I'll give you an example. If I go to a store and I have a pair of jeans in my hand and they're on sale for $15. And I'm waffling back and forth as to whether I want to buy them or not. I put them back. I have buyer's remorse, so I put them back. I get home and I'm like, you know what? I should have bought those jeans. I'll go back tomorrow and I'll get them.
You go back, you pick the same jeans up, you go to checkout, and they tell you that those jeans are now $40. They were just $15 yesterday. Yeah, we had a sale. That sale was done yesterday. They're now $40. Are you going to buy the jeans now? I'm not. I'm not going to buy the jeans now. That's kind of how that would feel, knowing that he was a free agent, was set to be a free agent at least. I wasn't planning on giving up any draft capital for him. And now I have to give up draft capital and pay him. If that's the case, then you might as well start looking at guys like Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf. And not that these guys are available. We don't know for a fact that any of these guys are on the trade block. But if you are telling me I have to trade for Tee Higgins, the most appealing thing about Tee Higgins is that he's free as a free agent in terms of a free agent. You don't have to give up any draft capital. That is the most appealing and redeeming quality about pursuing Tee Higgins. When you talk about DK Metcalf, when you talk about Garrett Wilson, when you even talk about, even if that's your cup of tea, Cooper Kupp, pun intended, you got to give up something to get those guys. And those guys have existing contracts, right? There's money on the books already for those guys. Some of those are advantageous situations, like Garrett Wilson's contract. That's an advantageous situation. 2 years remaining on a rookie deal because they're going to pick up the fifth-year option. And we could go on and on about guys that may potentially be available via trade. The bottom line is you already know you have to trade for those guys. And you don't necessarily have to pay them right away. Meanwhile, if you trade for Tee Higgins, you got to pay him as well. So would you be interested in Tee Higgins if the Bengals slapped the franchise tag on him and said, we'll trade him to you. You can have Tee Higgins, but you got to give us a draft pick or 2 or 3. And I know it may ultimately depend on what kind of draft pick that they want for him. I think the Chiefs traded L'Jarius Sneed for a 3rd-round pick. Would you be interested in trading a 3rd-round pick for Tee Higgins and then paying him? It's the same conversation that we've had about, and keep in mind, that 3rd-round pick is not Washington's 3rd-round pick. It's Miami's 3rd-round pick. So it's a damn good 3rd-round pick, right? So it's the same conversation that we've been having, though. Are you going to find a receiver in the 3rd round that's as good as Tee Higgins? The answer is probably no. But again, I hearken back to he was initially supposed to not have to cost us anything from a draft capital standpoint. He was supposed to just cost you money, which we were fine with paying. This Tee Higgins situation can get very complicated. It could become very convoluted. It may not, and all of this could be a moot point. The Bengals could do nothing. He could hit free agency, and to the victors go the spoils. To the highest bidder goes Tee Higgins, or to the place that he so desires goes Tee Higgins, right? Whether that's Washington, New England, Los Angeles with the Chargers, wherever, right? But if Joe Burrow is willing to restructure, if the Bengals aren't able to reach a long-term deal with him before free agency, which I don't think is going to happen, but they decide, you know what, we can afford $26 million. With the extra money we freed up due to Joe restructuring his deal, we can afford $26 million. It's just $5 more million than we paid him last year. We can afford that. Let's slap the franchise tag on him for a 2nd consecutive season and give us another opportunity to ride this thing out one more time. Then next year, we got to play Jamar. We can't play this. We can't play this game. We can't do this song and dance. They'll probably pay Jamar this year. That's the smart thing to do. But we'll see if that gets done. But what says you? Would you be willing to give up, let's say, a 3rd-round pick? for Tee Higgins. Bengals aren't going to try to, they're not going to try to pull the wool over anybody's eyes on a guy that was going to be a free agent. They're not going to ask for a second or a first round pick. They're going to say, hey, just give me a third round pick for him. That's what we would have gotten if we would have traded him or allowed him to walk in free agency. And, the compensatory thing probably works out. They probably would have ended up getting a third round pick. So just give me a third round pick. And we'll call it square. Would you be willing to do that and then pay him? I myself would then start looking around at other options before I entertain that. I'd pick up the phone. I'd call the Jets. I'd pick up the phone. I'd call Seattle. And I'd take a look around the landscape initially first before I said, all right, and I'll be honest with you. If it's not Tee Higgins, there isn't a lot of things out there that I'm interested in at the receiver position. Now, there is another guy that I'm extremely interested in, but it's not for the purposes of being wide receiver 2. So if we're talking wide receiver 2, for me, it's Tee Higgins or bust. I don't want Chris Godwin coming off of an injury. I mean, I'd be open to bringing in a veteran like Keenan Allen or one of those guys that is a wily vet that can get open, but that's not who I want as wide receiver 2. I'd be interested in that guy being here as a wide receiver 3, right? Not as wide receiver 2. So Tee Higgins is, like I said, the big fish. He is the prize of free agency this year. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that this Tee Higgins situation could get a little bit convoluted. It could get really interesting. Joe Burrow's not doing us any favors by wanting to take less and potentially restructure his deal, push some money back to the back end of his contract, front load some of the money, give it to him in guarantees, or not guarantees, a bonus, right? Remove it from the cap and just hand it to him. Here, take this right now up front. Lower the cap hit. We'll see, what happens with that situation. It's a situation worth monitoring. That's for certain. I don't think it's going to be as clean potentially as we initially thought. This could get interesting. And Bengals fans have been telling me, I don't think he's going anywhere, Louie. They've been saying that, and I'm like, I don't buy it. I just don't see Cincinnati spending that kind of bread. But my mind was thinking differently because I thought Jamar Chase was also a free agent. He's not. So, but they do have a sticky dilemma over there. Trey Hendrickson on the last year of a deal, need to pay him, which they could elect to do what they did last year and do nothing. And he is 30, so they could say, you know what? Why would we give him an extension? The best of Trey Hendrickson probably has come and gone already. He's going to be on the back end of his career. Let's not give him an extension, right? Chase, on the other hand, he's just getting started. He's in the prime of his career. They're going to keep him. Do you extend him now, or do you make him wait until next year? You don't want to, I don't know if there's necessarily a way they can burn that bridge, but I mean, he could just say, you know what? I don't want to sign a long-term deal here. You could franchise tag me as many years as you want, but I'm not signing a deal here. I don't think he would do that, but you don't even want it to come to that, right? So with that said, let's get to the free agents this season, and we're going to go and do an extensive deep dive into these free agents. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each and every single position, and we'll talk about the free agents. We'll talk about the needs of this team, and is this a good way to allocate resources, right? So let's start at the quarterback position. We don't need a quarterback, okay? And I've already told you, so we're not going to spend a lot of time here. I've already told you that Marcus Mariota, as you can see, is a free agent. Their market value for him
is $4.2 million. Last year he made $6 million, so there's no way he's going to make less than he made last year. I would even say he probably would make more based off of the 2 performances that he had. He's probably worth more like $8 to $10 million. So I highly doubt that, he'll make what they suggest he will. Obviously, we all want him back. It would be great if he decided to come back, but the likelihood is, and he's already made it abundantly clear, he would love to get back towards the West Coast, which is where his family lives. And he's got 2 little daughters. One was just born probably 3-4 months ago. And he would love to have a chance to start, which he's not going to get here in Washington. So my guess is he won't be back with Washington. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope he's back because he's exactly what we need backing up Jaden Daniels. But I've already told you guys, I think it's going to be Jeff Driscoll. They already got the 3 quarterbacks that they're going to keep on the roster, Jeff Driscoll and Sam Hartman. So I think we've seen the last of Marcus Mariota in a Commander's uniform, but we'll see. Other than that, we have no business with the quarterback position overall. We got no business whatsoever. So we move on to the running back position. And we are in need and in search of a dynamic running back, right? However, there's not one here, right? Not what we're looking for, at least. Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Jeff Wilson. You can just keep going down this list. A.J. Dillon, Nick Chubb, Javonte Williams. We're looking for a home run threat, and they just don't exist in free agency. And furthermore, let's just be honest with each other. Running back is one of those positions that you really look to attack via the draft. You're not trying to. Teams have spoken. I agree with, unless there's a special, like last year, that was a special group of free agent running backs. Even down to, hell, we even got Austin Eckler out of the mix. But even down to the Bears signing DeAndre Swift, right? He was the lesser of the free agent backs, and he's a damn good back. We wanted him here in Washington, and he chose Chicago. I don't know if this group necessarily wanted him. I know I did, as a fan, wanted them to try and sign him. But there was Josh Jacobs, there was Derrick Henry, obviously Saquon Barkley. There were so many free agent backs that were dynamic and changed the game. That's not what this group is. There's not even a single one of those types of backs available this year. So, as you can see, J.K. Dobbins, Samaje Perine, Dearness Johnson, Rico Dowdle, Cam Akers, Jeremy McNichols, Travis Homer, Nick Chubb. So, yeah, not a lot here. So I'm not interested in any of these backs. Neither should you, but I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't be interested in. Our back that we want is in the draft. We're going to just bypass the fullback position because we don't have that in our offense. And if we were going to deploy a fullback, we would just use Ben Sinnott in that role. So we go straight to receivers. And this is where things get interesting because we definitely need a receiver or 2 in free agency. So Rio, brought up Stephon Diggs on the Commanders Kings stream and said he'd be interested. And my buddy actually asked me about Stephon Diggs, and I was like, nah, I'm good. Coming off of an injury, 31 years old. And it's like, I don't want to put the malcontent label on him because he didn't really cause any problems in Houston. However, he does not have the cleanest off the field track record, and he did get in CJ Stroud's face on the sidelines. So I don't need that for JD5. I don't need that. All right. Obviously, we talked about Tee Higgins. We know that's the guy that everybody's going to covet. We're in that mix. Don't even know if he's going to be a free agent, right? So can't even say if he'll be available. Keenan Allen, I'm interested. I still think he gets open. I still think he can help a team. I don't want him as wide receiver too, but I'd be willing to sign Keenan Allen to a 1-year deal to be the third wide receiver on this team. But how much is that going to cost you? Let's see what they think his market value is. $11 million. They got 2 years, 22, so 11.1 million is what they're saying he's worth. I take a flyer on him for 1 year. It's $10 million. Got no issues with that. Amari Cooper, I'm good on him. I think Buffalo wants him back, but I'm good. Chris Godwin is an interesting name. I'm not as big on Chris Godwin because of the injury he's coming off of. But he's a good receiver. Don't get me wrong, but not what I'm looking for. I'd like him as a third option in Washington, but again, even though he's coming off of an injury, you're going to have to pay him. Excuse me. I'm good on him. Brandon Cooks, good on him. Deontay Johnson, everybody's good on him, apparently. He was on 16 different teams last year. DeAndre Hopkins playing in the Super Bowl, good on him. Mike Williams, good on him. Robert Woods. Marquise Brown is interesting. Hollywood Brown. He's going to be in the Super Bowl on Sunday. I'm good on him, though. Darius Slayton, good on him, but he's interesting, right? As a third option, similar to a De'Ami Brown, a guy that can stretch the football field vertically. If they decided to sign him, I wouldn't be upset because he can play ball, right? But again, he just needs to be your third, fourth option, right? Let's see what his market value is anyway while we're here. $16 million. I'm good on Darius Slayton for that kind of money, right? I was thinking more along the lines of that same 10 that we were talking about for Keenan Allen. I'd be willing to give that to Darius Slayton, but not $16 million for Darius Slayton. I'm good. I don't like him that much. Your old friend KJ Osborne. I'm good. Demarcus Robinson. He's a good football player. Wonder what his market value is. He kind of fits $3 million, and that's the kind of money you're looking to spend. And he's interesting is Demarcus Robinson because he's a good route runner. He catches the football, but most importantly, he blocks his ass off. He's physical. He blocks. He does the dirty work. And another side note, non sequitur about him. Fun fact, he's never been on a team that didn't make the playoffs in his NFL career. He's been in the league 9 years, and he's been to the playoffs 9 years straight. So doesn't hurt to add a guy that all he knows is winning in this league. I wouldn't be shocked if they add someone like him. Nelson Aguilar, no. Ashton Doolin, no. DJ Chark, no. Mac Hollins, no. Tyler Boyd, no. Zach Pascal, no. Zay Jones, no. Elijah Moore is interesting. Let's take a look at his market value. $4.5 million. Again, that is a small price to pay for a guy with tremendous upside. Now, the only thing that's scary about Elijah Moore is he's been in the league 4 years and you really haven't seen it. I loved him coming out of Mississippi, right? Coming out of the Ole Miss. I loved Elijah Moore. So did the staff that was here previously, which probably should scare you, right? But $5 million is a small price to pay to kick the tires on a guy that was a former, what, second or third round pick was Elijah? What was Elijah Moore? Second round pick. Yeah, thought so. Very early second round pick. $5 million isn't a lot of money to kick the tires on a guy that was a former second round pick to see if he can give you something. I wouldn't be opposed to that. You know what I mean? Braxton Berrios, no. Nick Westbrook-Akine, I already told Rio, if we sign him, it's on site. I got hands for him. Put the pause on him. Pause. Brandon Powell, Trent Sherfield, Rondale Moore, Justin Watson, Chris Connolly. Here's my guy right here. Tutu mother effing Atwell. So a lot of you wanted this guy down here, right? Cavante Turpin. But look here, right? Cavante is a restricted or free agent, right? The Cowboys aren't letting him walk away. And what this restricted free agent tag means is they can match any deal that he gets from another team. They're going to match it. They're not going to let him walk away. He's too good. He's too valuable. He brings too much to the table. So how about you get a Cavante Turpin light, right? And honestly, Tutu Atwell is a way better wide receiver. Let's take a look at that, right? Statistically, this man played in 17 games, so he played in all 17 games. He only started 5 of them, 425 snaps for him, 42 receptions, 562 yards. That's a career high for him. Same same for the catches department. He can help as a receiver, but more importantly for me with Tutu Atwell is his ability to return kicks and be dynamic. You can put him in the backfield. You can throw him screens. This is a 4.29 40 guy we're talking about. 4.29, 4.32, something in that range, like a blazer, something we don't currently have other than Terry McLaurin. This is what we need, an infusion of this type of speed. I always wondered why the Rams didn't use him a little more, to be honest with you. See what his market value is. And you're talking about a guy that they project, and again, they don't just run with these projections, right? They project $4 million salary for him. So let's say he gets $7.5 million. I'm all for it. I'll sign Tutu Atwell at 25 years old? I'll sign Tutu Atwell to a 2-year, $15 million deal. I'll sign Tutu Atwell to a 2-year, $11 million deal. Hell yeah. Sign me up. This is my guy right here. Third option, right? Wide receiver 3 or 4, right? You don't love him as your wide receiver 3? That's fine, because he's going to help you in the returns game. Jamison Crowder won't be here next year. Somebody's got to fill that void. That's my answer. Tutu Atwell. That is my answer. Right there. Tutu Atwell. Let's keep going down this list. Steven Sims Jr., Jamison Crowder, Kadero Hodge, Deontay Hardy, Van Jefferson, Gunnar Olszewski, Olamide Zaccheaus. I think he's going to be back. That shouldn't stop you from getting a guy like Tutu Atwell, trying to get a guy like Tee Higgins, because what is Olamide's market value? Can't be much. They got him at $2 million. That sounds about right, right? Olamide might cost 2 years. You can sign Olamide back for a 2-year, $5 million deal. And in the second year, there's an exit ramp, right? Like Olamide is not going to cost you anything. So I'd love to have Olamide back. And let's say they say Olamide, we could pay you $3 million. That's cool. $3.5, $4 million. That's cool. It's not going to cost you a lot. Josh Palmer, he's interesting. See what they say his market value is. He's interesting. $4.3 million. That's another guy to keep an eye on. He's only 25 years old. I think 2 years ago he had a really good season. See. Now, this is the issue with him. Injuries, but 17, 16, 10, 2 years ago. Last year, 15 games. So that's not bad, right? Starts here. 39 receptions, 584 yards, 1 touchdown. This was the year right here, 2022, where he started to really emerge, and you thought maybe this guy's going to really start to kill it. 72 catches, 769. So there's production here, man. I like Josh Palmer. I wouldn't be upset. $4.3 million. I wouldn't be upset if they gave Josh Palmer a 2-year, $14 million deal. I wouldn't even blink. All right. That's another guy. Like, we got all these big grandiose names. Again, that's not wide receiver 2. That's wide receiver 3 we're talking about right there. Right. So, let's see. Allen Robinson, Noah Brown. Don't count Noah Brown out. Juju Smith-Schuster, DeAndre Carter, Tyler Johnson, MVS, Dante Pettis. Tim Patrick, James Prochet, Mecole Hardman. He was interesting. I don't think I want any parts of him, though. Greg Dortch was interesting, but I'm good on him. And you look at the rest of these names, none of them really jump out at you outside of Kevontae Turpin. But as I mentioned already, he is a restricted free agent. So let's get to the next position, and that's going to be tight end. So obviously, our guy is right here, Zach Ertz. Okay. Their value for Ertz is $5.3 million. That sounds about right. He just made $3 million this past year. Ertz said that was the most games he played in his NFL career in a single season. And look, he was right. He started 17 games. He did play 17 in Arizona and with Cliff in 2021, but he didn't start all 17 of those games. Only other season he started all of the games was in 2018 in Philadelphia. That's when he had a ridiculous season, 116 catches and 1,063 yards, 1,163 yards, excuse me. So Ertz was really good last year, and he had the second most touchdown catches in his career. So the expectation is that he'll be back, right? But if you were looking to, and then our old friend John Bates, let's just take a look at him real quick. I don't think they have a market value for him. They don't. It's not going to cost a lot. He made $1 million roughly last year. It's not going to cost a lot to bring John Bates back. So, so there's two guys that stand out as athletically gifted guys if you wanted to go that route. Now, the problem with both of these guys is they don't block. So if you're looking for a guy that can do it all, you're probably not going to find it in this group of tight ends, okay? I like Tyler Conklin. Do I like him more than Zach Ertz? No, right? Here's the first guy that I would bring up if we're talking athletically gifted guys that can help you. Juwan Johnson, right? Juwan Johnson, converted wide receiver to tight end, was a receiver at the University of Oregon. He's now a tight end in the NFL, and his production is continuing to increase. So check out his numbers, right? 2022, 508 yards on 42 catches. It dipped a little last year because he dealt with some injuries, as you can see, played less games, right? This year, so last year, 37 catches, 368. This year, in 17 games, only 5 starts, but he played the most snaps of his NFL career this year, so that's a good thing. 66 targets, 50 catches, career high, 548 yards, career high, for 3 touchdowns. This is a guy that has caught touchdowns, 4 touchdowns 4 years ago, 7 touchdowns 3 years ago, 4 touchdowns 2 years ago, and 3 touchdowns this past season. So I don't like the 2 fumbles, but these are good numbers, and he's athletically gifted, former wide receiver. So that's a guy that sticks out like a sore thumb to me. Let's check his market value and see what they say he's going to get paid. $10 million. That's a little steep. Don't know if he's going to even command that kind of money, but if he does, it's a bit steep. How much did Mike Gesicki get last year? Gesicki got $2.5 million last year. I highly doubt Juwan Johnson is going to get $10 million this year. I can see him getting a $7 million deal, something like that. So he's one guy that is interesting. The other guy that I thought was really interesting that's not going to cost you next to nothing, Stone Smart. All right. Stone Smart. Chargers, guy that was a quarterback at Old Dominion. This is why I know him, because he went to ODU. Converted to tight end in the NFL. You know, didn't get a lot of opportunities until this past season. As you can see, he had 21 targets last year, 19 this year, 16 catches, the most in his career, 208 yards, most in his career. He had a big game against the Chiefs, which kind of put him on everybody's radar. He'd be interesting as a guy that's continuing to develop. So that's another name that kind of sticks out to me. The rest of these guys are just that. Jags, just guys. So don't really see a lot at the tight end position. As we move on to the tackle position. So as we know, this is important. To me, if you ask me, what's the one position that I would like us to get someone in free agency at, I tell you it's tackle and corner, because I really don't want young players in those particular positions unless you're getting something elite, right? So I would like a veteran tackle, someone that's been in the league that you can trust, protecting Jaden's blind side. I would prefer that it not be a rookie. Again, unless you're getting something elite, I don't think we're getting something elite at 29. I could be wrong, but that's just my stance, right? So here's what's available. All right, Cam Robinson, he's interesting, if nothing else. He's also more of a right tackle than a left tackle, but he can play left tackle. He has played left tackle in his career. They drafted him to play left tackle. Then he was moving over to the right at Jacksonville when they drafted Walker Little. Then they moved him back over to left tackle. Then the Vikings lost their left tackle, and then they traded for him, and he played left tackle for the Minnesota Vikings. So he can play both left and right tackle. Don't love Cam Robinson. I don't hate Cam Robinson either, right? Joseph Noteboom, he's cool, but that's the wrong Ram tackle if you're looking for a Ram tackle. Ronnie Stanley, that's a name that's going to pop up. That's a name that's going to continue to pop up. I'm not a massive Ronnie Stanley fan, but let's just look and see what some of these tackles may be going for on the market. Let's start with Cam Robinson, right? 14 million. That sounds about right for a Cam Robinson. And I'd be willing to pay that for a Cam Robinson if that's the direction they decided to go. Because I've said this already. I'm done with the Brandon Coleman experiment at left tackle. I'm done. They may not be done. I'm done. I was done after week 1. Okay. I'm done. But they may not be. I hope that they've seen enough to understand that he's a guard. I would hope that that's the case. But if they understand that, then we should be really doing our homework and our due diligence with these free agents here, because this is where the replacement for him, which is going to allow him to kick inside, would come from more likely than not. Ronnie Stanley, let's take a look at what his value is. $20 million. 21 pretty much $million. Let's take a look at how many games he started here over the last few years. And this is my issue with Ronnie Stanley, right? Started out not too bad, 12, 15, 15, 14. Then it started to come off the rails. 6 in 2020, 1 game in 2021, 11 in 2022, 13 in 2023. He started every game this season for the Baltimore Ravens. So that is a positive. I'm not the biggest Ronnie Stanley fan. And at 30 years old, I think you can do better, right? You're going to spend money at the tackle position. I want something young going into his prime. You want to try to match guys up with JD5
as he's continuing to ascend. You want guys that are kind of in that same, plane with him. You don't want guys, you could sprinkle in guys that are 30, 31, 32 here and there like they did this past season. But you don't want a bunch of 30-somethings protecting him on the offensive line. That's where we're heading. With guys like Andrew Wiley and Tyler Biadasz, you don't want a bunch of 30-somethings. Tyron Smith, good on him. Morgan Moses, old friend Momo, good on him. Jedrick Wills, good on him. He was interesting early in his career. He struggled here of late. I don't think he's anybody's tackle at this point. He's probably more suited to play guard. Here's my guy right here. I'm going back to the Rams store. Alaric Jackson. This is my guy right here. Alaric Jackson. $16 million. Right up my alley. Right down our alley. Right in our price range. Feel really comfortable. Left tackle right here. Go get him. 26 years old, right? So right in that age range you're looking for. Let's take a look and see. Last 2 seasons, 15 starts. He was suspended the first 2 games of the season this year. The situation was disclosed, so we don't really know what exactly happened. He said he was being immature. He deserved it. So that's behind him. He said they were going to keep it in-house. So he started the other, 14 games. He missed 1 game, I guess, due to injury. So this is the guy for me. Alaric Jackson, right here. Left tackle. Left tackle, right here. That's who I think they should go after. And again, I'm not upset if they go after Cam Robinson. I wouldn't love Ronnie Stanley, but I'm okay with it. All these guys are better than Brandon Coleman. So I'm not tripping. But Alaric Jackson, that's the guy I'm going after in free agency. Young, going into the prime of his career, not going to cost you as much as a Cam Robinson or a Ronnie Stanley. Well, maybe a little bit more than Cam Robinson. But not going to cost you as much as a Ronnie Stanley, who you're paying for more so name and brand recognition than you are his play on the field. Give me Alaric Jackson, man. Trent Brown, our guy. Oh, no, that's not our guy. That's not our Trent Brown. I think it is our Trent Brown. I think they got the wrong team here. But, no, ours is Trenton Scott. Yeah, that's right. Got the wrong. I got the right first name, wrong last name. I want Cornelius Lucas back. Y'all already know that. You know how I feel about Cole. 33 years old, still, I think, very serviceable swing tackle. I would even be open to bringing Trent Scott back. But again, it's up to them how they want to play it. We know he can handle, he can handle multiple roles, both tackle positions, both guard positions, can be a tackle eligible. We know he can do all those things within our scheme. So I would be open to him returning to the fold. But if you look at the rest of these names, they do not move the needle at all whatsoever. It is slim pickings at the tackle position. So if you're going to get one, you better get them fast because they are going quickly. It's hard to find quality help at the tackle position in free agency. I'd be shocked if the Rams don't try to re-sign Alaric Jackson, to be honest with you. He might not even make it to free agency. If I were them, I'd lock him up because good tackles are just hard to find. And that's homegrown product. He's developed well in their system. I think he's going to go back to LA, to be honest with you. So we'll probably be stuck sniffing around these other guys, right? But we need tackle help, preferably left tackle. I don't think they're going to mess around with
Andrew Wiley. He's got 1 more year left on his deal. They're probably just going to leave him be for now and then attack that position next year. All right, let's proceed. Now, I don't think we are going to be in the guard market, but let's just say that we are, right? If I had it my way, we wouldn't be in the guard market because I'd bring back Cornelius Lucas and Trent Scott, and I'd move Brandon Coleman to guard. And that would be that, all right? Now, maybe you're looking for a new center guard combo guy like Michael Dieter from last year who can fill multiple roles for you. Then maybe a guy like Jaden Daniels who can play both center and guard is more of your speed. Zach Martin, aging veteran, I'm good, right? Brandon Sheriff, I'm good. Old friend, not looking for a reunion. Kevin Zeitler, too old for me. Patrick McCarry, interesting, right? In Baltimore, I thought he did a really good job this season. Let's see how many times he started this year. See what his market value is. $10 million for him. And again, it's not like we're looking for a guard to start for us. Sam Cosmi will be back at some point, maybe even ready for the season. We'll see how his rehab goes. They still got Allegretti, right? I don't think they're looking to spend money on this position. I don't. So I'm now drafting one makes a ton of sense. As a matter of fact, he started all 17 games. I thought he did. He'd be interesting if we were in the market for a guard, but we're not. I just don't. I could be wrong here, right? But I just don't think we're in the market for a guard. I think we're in the market for drafting one, which makes a ton of sense. But I don't think we're in the market for a free agent one, right? We're looking for a guy that we can develop, not a guy that needs to come in and start right away. That's how I feel. But again, if Cosmi's going to be out, you have to prepare yourself for that. But if you bring back Trent Scott, again, he could start at guard until Cosmi comes back. That's not ideal. I know. It's not ideal. But it's another option. You get the tackle, and you can kick Brandon Coleman inside. That's what I would prefer to do. So let's move on to another position. We don't need center, right? Let's just see if they got any other, backup centers, because I think we all would like to see Michael Dieter upgraded. So let's just look around and see if there's anything. Again, I wouldn't be looking around for a veteran center per se. I would like to see them draft someone and develop, but also, what if Tyler Biadasz gets hurt? Do you want to be putting in a rookie center? Probably not. So let's see if we can find something here. Michael Dieter was with us last year. We paid him $1.8 million. See if it's anything in here worth kicking around, right? Ryan Kelly, I remember when we were going to draft him in his rookie season out of Alabama. He went off the board right before our pick, so we didn't take him. Austin Corbett, Coleman Shelton, Daniel Brunskill, Nick Harris, Michael Dieter. Nick Harris is interesting. How much is he? Did he start this year? No, he got in. He must have got injured. Only played in 5 games. That probably takes him out of the mix. He would have been interesting. How about Nick? Y'all interested in Nick Gates? I kid. There's nothing here, man. I mean, either you're going back down the Michael Dieter road again, or you could find one of these other guys and give them a look-see. Like Josh Myers is good. Let's check out his market value. That's not bad. I mean, it's probably starting center money, though, right? can't be paying a backup center $8 million. He's a starting center in this league, so I doubt that you would be able to get him. But there could be another guy in here that they like, Robert Hainsey, Danny Pinter. There's some solid names in here, but again, they may just bring back Michael Dieter for all we know. All right, now let's go to the defensive side of the football where we need the most help. And we start with edge rusher. So this is where things get very interesting. So between corner and edge, I think you should be aggressive in free agency defensive wise. There aren't any other positions that I think you need to be aggressive in free agency at. You don't need to be aggressive at safety. You don't need to be aggressive at linebacker, although you should be looking at linebacker, right? Like Michael Walker isn't going to be back. You should be looking for another kind of Michael Walker veteran linebacker, you know, that you can have on the roster or at least around the roster, practice squad, etc. So you should be taking a look at linebacker. But aggressively, you should be attacking edge and corner in free agency. And you don't stop, right? Even if you sign an edge or two, you still should be drafting one as well, if at all possible. Same with the cornerback position. Just because you sign one or two in free agency doesn't mean that you don't still draft one come late April, right? And the reason I say that is because assume that we're going to re-sign at least one of our own at each of those positions, defensive end, edge rusher, whatever you want to call it, and corner, right? I want Dante Fowler Jr. back. There's no reason for him not to be back. He had 10.5 sacks last season. That's Dan Quinn's boy. He's not going anywhere. So assume that he's going to be back, right? Same with corner. Noah Igbenogany played very well last season. There's no reason for him not to be back. And he's only like 26 years old. He's young. There's no reason for Noah Igbenogany not to be back. Now, he may not be starting next season, but there's no reason for him not to be back unless someone else is going to give him good money. He played well last season. I surmise he'll be back in Washington, though. But again, neither one of those guys should stop you from pursuing extra help at those respective positions, and you should still look to be aggressive in the draft at those positions as well. That said, I am very interested in Khalil Mack, excuse me. Yeah, he's 34 years old. How much does he have left in the tank? That's debatable. I am not paying him $23 million. And so if that's the price tag for a Khalil Mack at this stage of his career, I am not interested. I don't think this is going to be the price tag for him. What did he have? 6 sacks this year? Yeah, 6 sacks. That is not the price tag for Khalil Mack. Getting 6 sacks. He's really still good against the run. But, I mean, he did have 17 sacks in 2023. So there is that. But I can't see anybody spending that kind of money on Khalil Mack. That said, I'm interested, but the price has to be right. Hassan Reddick, he was awful last year. Now, there could be a reason for that. There could be a reason for that. He did miss the first 7 weeks of the NFL season. He had no training camp, holding out, looking for a contract. But when he did come back, he was awful. He was awful. So that's going to tank his value. He wanted to get paid, so I would assume that he wants somebody to pay him this year. But coming off the season that he had, it probably just backfired on him. And he's going to have to take another 1-year prove-it deal. Do you want to be the team that gives him the opportunity to prove he's not washed? Let's see what they think his market value is. It's $11 million.
I don't even know if it's that, but you pay for pass rush in this league. And before this holdout stuff, he was a guy that was getting to the quarterback. Let's check out his numbers prior to this past year. 4 years ago or 5 years ago, 13. 4 years ago, 11. 3 years ago, 16. 2 years ago, 11. And last season, obviously, the holdout, all of that good stuff, 1 sack. So can he, in a situation where he has a full offseason, camp, everything shows up, can he get back to his double digit ways? Because the 4 years prior to that, he was a double-digit sack getter. If you think the answer is yes, maybe you kick the tires on Hassan Reddick. Just a thought. Matthew Judon, not interested. DeMarcus Lawrence, not interested. Josh Sweat, I am interested. Going to be 28 years old. See what they think his market value is. Whew, that's a bit steep. We're already paying a guy. So let me tell you what Josh Sweat is. Josh Sweat is we didn't get Myles Garrett, but we need another starting defensive end opposite of Dorrance Armstrong. But you don't want to break the bank, but you want a good football player. Then you can go sign Josh Sweat. You're paying Dorrance, what, $15 million a year? I think he's signed a 3-year, $45 million deal. He'd be somewhere in that neighborhood, right? 3 years, 52, 3 years, 56, something like that, right? If that's in fact the case, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I like Josh Sweat. You look at his numbers, 8 sacks this past year. 7 sacks the year before, 2 forced fumbles that year, 11 sacks in 2022, a sack, forced fumble, and interception as well. So 3 forced fumbles back in 2020. So there's production here. Good football player. He'd be interesting. Not my first choice, but he's interesting nonetheless. He's going to get paid this offseason, though. I think like New England, someone like New England is going to give him some big time bread, I think, personally. Probably outside of our price range. A number of people have vouched for Chase Young. What do you think about Chase Young? No, I'm good. Charles Aminahu, I'm good. Jerome Baker, good. Marcus Davenport, can't stay healthy. Dietrich Wise, I'm good. Foley Fatukasi, I'm good. Kaiser White, I'm good. Anthony Nelson, Lorenzo Carter, Jaron Reed, John Kaminsky, Brandon Graham, Cleveland Farrell, I'm good on every last one of those guys. Morgan Fox, Landon Roberts, Zach Bond, I know somebody brought him up. He's more of an inside linebacker, but we don't have a place for him to play. We don't have a place for him to start unless you're not bringing back Bobby Wagner, which I don't see happening. So there's nowhere for Zach, and the Eagles are gonna re-sign him. Like they made the mistake of not re-signing TJ Edwards and all their Kaiser White and all those guys. I think they regretted it. They're not gonna let Zach Bond. This man was all pro, everything. There's no way they're not re-signing Zach Bond. Kayvon Chason, Dennis Gardeck. I'm actually a Dennis Gardeck fan, but Dante Fowler Jr. is gonna be back. Manuel Agba, Daryl Taylor. I liked him 2 years ago. 3 years ago, Daryl Taylor. Look at his numbers from 2-3 years ago. There it is, 2022. 10 sacks. I thought he was going to be the next big thing in Seattle, and then it just didn't happen. 6 isn't a bad number. Then 3 last year. I was interested in him in free agency last year, by the way, but it didn't happen. Or not free agency. I think he got traded last year from Seattle to Chicago, but didn't happen. I think I'm good on him now. Peyton Turner, Shaq Thompson, no. Josh Uche, no. Solomon Thomas, no. Joe Tryon, no. Tarshawn Wharton, Jerry Hughes, Tano Passigno, Duke Riley, DeJuan Smoot, Jonathan Bullard, Derek Barnett. None of these dudes. We can just keep going. Now, here's a guy that I am interested in, but we already got one of these, right? Azeez Ojulari is very interesting, and I don't think you're going to have to pay him a lot of money. $7.6 million. Again, these are just, calculated market value. Like, this is them putting his numbers, his age up against other guys in that similar, market and saying this is what he should be paid based off of XYZ. He might get a little bit more than this. He might get a little less than this. He might get something around this. He's interesting, though. He's interesting, but he's also undersized, and we already have one of those in Dante Fowler Jr. We don't need another one, but I wouldn't mind kicking the tires on Azeez Ojulari. But again, if you're bringing back Dante Fowler, you don't need Azeez Ojulari. You go down this list some more. James Smith-Williams. Hey, how about that? Old friend. So, yeah, they got a bunch of different positions jammed in here because edge kind of encapsulates a lot of positions. We wanted to just get to the defensive ends, which is what we need. This is the group here. And we went through most of these names, by the way, already. But this is a more condensed list. It's a better list. Takes those linebackers like Zach Bond and those type of guys out and just give you straight defensive ends, which is what we need. But again, not a great group of guys to choose from. There's Jalen Holmes. I wonder if they're going to bring him back. Thought he played well at times this season. We'll see what they decide to do with him in particular. So, again, just to recap, Fowler Jr. is going to be back. I feel really confident in that. But that shouldn't stop you from pursuing someone like Khalil Mack or Josh Sweat or someone of that ilk in free agency if your heart so desires. But I think that's a position, defensive end, edge rusher is a position you should look to attack in free agency. So we continue on. Defensive tackle, I don't think we're going to be in the market for one of these. Most of you are trying to trade away one or not, or one or both of our interior defensive tackles of the Bama wall. But when it's all said and done, I don't think they're going to look to be too aggressive here at defensive tackle. But I wouldn't be shocked if they look to add somebody to the mix. Excuse me. This is the one that everybody just assumes they're going to want because he played in Dallas with them. And, they're very comfortable with those guys. Osa Odigizua. You see that number, guys? Ain't no way. 5 sacks last year. I don't know if he's going to get 20. Now, this is the thing I like here, this durability. He's played in every game the last 3 years. But ain't no way Osa Odigizua, and he's a hell of a football player, by the way, is getting $21 million when we're already, our highest paid player on the team right now is a defensive tackle. Okay. Ain't no way we going to make the next highest paid player on the team a defensive tackle, another defensive tackle, and have 3 of our highest paid players on the team defensive tackles. It ain't happening. So this whole notion of, Osa Odigizua, no, it ain't happening. Doesn't mean they won't add another guy in here. Milton Williams is really good for the Eagles. He's probably going to get some good money too, if I had to guess. $12 million. That's good money for Milton Williams. I like him a lot. The Eagles do too. But we need to replace Sheldon Day. We need to replace Carl Davis. I wouldn't be mad if they looked in here and tried to find a guy. Let's see if we can't find a guy, a cheap guy to bring in. See, Tierre Tart is solid. That's the kind of money you're looking at right there. Tier Tart would be an interesting guy to bring in. Could be your Sheldon Day replacement. Bobby Brown, he probably get some good money. They don't even, okay, so maybe not. Thought he might have been a guy. He doesn't have a market value, so they don't think too highly of him then. If he doesn't have a market value, he'd be another guy to keep an eye on. Let's see if there are any other guys that necessarily move the needle per se. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Derek Nottie. Johnny Hankins. Jerry Tillery. Mike Hoyt. Greg Gaines. So yeah, it's not a great list of defensive tackles. Javon Kinlaw is interesting because he was a former first round pick. And while he didn't work out in San Francisco, still young. And Adam Peters was a part of the brain trust that drafted him. So he could be somebody, and he's not going to cost you anything, right? So I don't think he's the guy that they would bring in, but I wouldn't rule it out. But I wouldn't be shocked if they, brought in a young or a veteran defensive tackle. It would make sense because, again, we can't keep trotting out Carl Davis when we get one injury. We can't be, relying heavily on Sheldon Day. Like that's a year one thing. That can't be year two, right? And I don't expect it to be. Linebacker, I said we should, let's see, we should go more specifically inside backer. Let's do that. All right. So Bobby's going to be back. Feel pretty confident about that. Bobby's going to be back. So then the question becomes, and you can't, and I personally think they love Jordan McGee. I like Jordan McGee a lot, but you still need a veteran. So don't be looking at these high-level veterans. You're bringing in somebody on the Michael Walker plane, someone that doesn't mind being a special teams backup linebacker coming off the bench, right? That's what you should be looking for, not for a guy that is expected to come in here and play starter snaps. So let's take a look around and see what we see. Raekwon McMillan, Quan Alexander, Nick Neiman, Ty Summers, Anthony Pittman, Oren Burks. He played well for the Eagles this year. His stinking ass forced a fumble against Austin Eckler in the playoff game. Hey, Khalik, old friend. That's where you at, Cleveland? That's what's up. Devin White continues to bounce around. Chris Barnes, Eric Wilson, Devin Bush, Neville Hewitt, Cody Barton, Willie Gay. He's interesting, but Tyrell Dotson. I like him. Former Buffalo Bill. He shouldn't cost a lot either. Yeah, that's the kind of guy you're looking for right there. And that's a little bit much because if you're paying Bobby 6.5, say Bobby wants 7.5 this year. It's hard to be paying a dude that's not playing $5 million. I think Tyrell Dotson can get $5 million from somebody, so that might be a little bit too much. But
he's solid. That'd be the kind of guy you should be looking for, honestly, someone like that. But it'll be somebody of lesser quality than that. Because again, he's a guy that's a borderline starter, Tyrell Dotson is. You're looking for a guy that knows I ain't starting. But if you need me, I'm over here. So that's another position to take a look at. We here. Let's just take a look at outside backer since we're here. I think we've seen a lot of these dudes already. Hey, Jamin Davis. Old buddy. Yeah, it's nothing here. It's nothing there. All right. So let's get to now. This is the position that I spent the most time on. Just perusing this group, because to me, if after receiver, and honestly, even more so than receiver, this is the position that I think you have to come away with at least one guy in free agency. After Noah Igbenogany, if you're bringing him back, which I assume they're going to do. You got to come away with a starting corner. I don't want a rookie starting opposite of Marshawn Lattimore. I want them to draft a rookie corner. Absolutely, I do. But he shouldn't be thrusted into action right away. So let's look and see. I'm going to be honest with you. It's a lot of stuff here. We should be able to come away with something. Now, every guy here, though, doesn't necessarily fit the prototypical Joe Witt Jr., Dan Quinn corner. They like them tall. They like them long. They like them fast and physical. Who doesn't, right? Well, Ronald Rivera and company didn't, okay? But besides them, who doesn't, right? Well, let me tell you right now, DJ Reed doesn't fit that description. He's 5'8", 5'9", okay? But he's really good, okay? But he's 5'8", 5'9". But he's really good. So you got to figure out what's it to you. I don't think they're looking for a diminutive corner because they already got a guy to play inside in Mike Samerson. I think they're going to kick him inside. They're not looking for another guy small outside. So this is why I just don't think, like, I'm not even going to waste time on DJ Reed because I don't think he fits the prototypical corner that they want to play outside. So I'm not going to even waste my time. This is the guy that's at the top of the list, I believe. Charvarius Ward, a.k.a. Mooney Ward. Now, let's take a look at some of the numbers before we look at his market value. This is a guy that hasn't had a lot of ball production, didn't have a lot of ball production, this past year. But if you look at last year, 5 interceptions last year. All right. 1 the year before that, 2 the year before that. So this guy can make plays on the football. He's pretty durable as well, right? This past year, he had a tragedy, lost his daughter. It's been documented. That's part of the reason he wants out of San Francisco. Too many bad memories, etc. We've already saw that he's posted, whomever gets me is getting the best version of me. He's motivated. He's hungry. He said, I'm starving or I'm hungry or something along those lines. So he's interesting, and he has a working relationship with Adam Peters. As you can see, he was in San Francisco the last 3 years. So he and Peters overlap. So I just think there's a direct path to him ending up here in Washington. He's looking for a change of scenery. We're looking for a starting corner to put opposite of Marshawn Lattimore. It just makes too much sense. Now you go to market value,
$15 million for a starting NFL corner is nothing. This is the deal we've been giving out. This is the standard deal. The 3-year, $45 million deal makes a ton of sense to me. All right. This is the guy that makes the most sense to end up in Washington as a Commander. Of all the free agents right now that exist, he's the one that I think, and again, I don't know how Adam Peters feels about him. My guess is Peters feels good about Charvarius Ward. That's my guess. And if their relationship was good in San Francisco and he knows and he can vouch for this dude and he feels like this guy's a Commander, I think this is the number one guy on our board free agent wise if Tee Higgins doesn't exist, obviously. I'd be shocked if he's not a Commander. I'm just telling you right now. He's 6'1", he's rangy, he can run, he can play the ball, he'll come up and tackle. He checks off all the boxes. He checks off all the boxes. He's a Commander if you ask me. But what if it's not Charvarius Ward? What if it's not? Okay, there are other options. You're not out back if it's not Charvarius Ward. Carlton Davis is interesting, but he's coming off of a torn ACL or something, I believe. Or did he break his jaw? Which one did he do? Let's check and find out. I think he might have broke his jaw. No, I think he did tear his ACL. Nope. Okay, I was right. So he just broke his jaw. So he's fine, right? And he played well for Detroit. 13 games, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble. He was fine. Not the fastest guy in the world, but he fits that description. He's tall, 6'2", long arms, can run a little bit, but he's again he's not a burner by any stretch of the imagination. But you can do a lot worse than Carlton Davis. That's for damn sure. So he'd be another guy that they would consider. Don't think DJ Reed is in the mix as much as people keep bringing him up. He's 5'9", guys, 5'8", 5'9". We already got one of those on the team. He's not 5'8", 5'9", but he's probably 5'11". No, let's just call him 5'11", 6'10". I mean, 6 feet. And Mike Sainristil. They're not looking for another one of those. So I don't think DJ Reed is in the mix. Byron Murphy, if I'm not mistaken, is another undersized corner at 5'11". Let's just call him 6 feet. That's cool, but I think he's 5'11". I don't think they're interested in any diminutive corners, right? So we keep going. Jeff Okudah, Rasul Douglas, Stephon Gilmore, not interested. Mike Hilton, once upon a time, y'all know how I used to feel about Mike Hilton, but now Mike's a lot older, and we got our version of Mike Hilton, we think, in Mike Sainristil. So I'm going to pass on Mike Hilton. But once upon a time, when he was a free agent, before he went to Cincinnati, when he was leaving Pittsburgh, I wanted him. And boy, was he so good for these Bengals. Damn, he's really good for the Bengals. Dante Jackson, CJ Henderson, Shaquille Griffin, Davius White, Mike Hughes, Michael Davis. Y'all want Michael Davis back? All those guys I'm good on. Christian Fulton actually wasn't half bad for the Chargers this year. I actually was somewhat impressed with him this year with the Chargers. But I'm good. Again, not necessarily the tallest corner. Eric Stokes, Emmanuel Mosley. What's the deal with Eric Stokes? Guess there is no deal. He just didn't play well in Green Bay. Jordan Lewis, that was a guy I said watch out for because of his history with Dan Quinn and Joe Witt. Coming over from Dallas. I just keep an eye on him. I don't think they're going to go after him, but I wouldn't be shocked, right? Marco Wilson, Isaiah Oliver, Tremont Smith, Corey Butler, or Corey Ballantyne, Avonte Maddox, not interested. Isaac Yiadom. Remember, we were talking about Isaac Yiadom last offseason, and he ended up in San Francisco. I'm not interested this offseason. Asante Samuel Jr. is interesting, but he's, again, undersized. I'm not really too enamored with his game either. I'm good. Dory Jackson, Chris Boyd, Tavera Thomas, Khalil Dorsey, Antonio Hamilton, CJ Goodwin, Rock Yassin. Noah Igbenogany needs to be back. I just feel like he played really well. He's only 25 years old, former first-round pick. He played his ass off both inside and outside, but primarily inside. Like I said, he's not State Farm. He's not Allstate. He's not Progressive or Geico, but he is the general, and that's good enough for me. All right? Kendall Vindor, Benjamin St. Juice. Y'all interested in bringing Juice back? And then let's get serious for a minute. Paulson Adebo, 25 years old, will be 26 before the season starts. Now, and this is going to turn a lot of you off. He's coming off of an injury, and a pretty significant one. All right, week 7 against Denver. He broke his, I want to say, I don't want to make anything up. Let me get the lowdown, because I want to say he broke his femur, but I don't think he broke his femur. So I'm not going to put that on him. He broke his I did have it right. His femur. I was right. Which is a significant injury, obviously. The femur is the biggest bone in your entire body. So, yes, I'm aware that's not good, and we don't like injured players. I know. But there was a clip of him that he put out here recently, I want to say 2 days ago, of him running on the treadmill at 21 miles an hour. He put that out there to show teams, I'm good. You can sign me. So I think you're going to have to sign him to a 1-year deal. Let's talk about the good and the bad with Paulson Adebo. The good. Look at this ball production, guys. This man played in 7 games this season. He had 3 picks. Last year, he played and started in 15 games. He had 4 picks, and he forced 2 fumbles. In his rookie season, he played in all 17 games, started all 17 games. He had 3 interceptions. So in 4 seasons, the man has 10 picks. In the last 2 seasons, he's got 7 picks, and he only played in 7 games last season. He had 3 picks in 7 games. So what I'm telling you is he's a ball magnet. He's a guy that takes it away. If you make a mistake around Paulson Adebo, you pay for said mistake. You got to love it. Here's the bad. He gets a lot of penalties. He's very handsy down the field, doesn't get his head around at times. And so he giveth, he taketh away. And obviously, I already told you about the injury. So with that said, let's look at his market value. $11 million. He'll be fully healthy by the time camp rolls around. So that's not an issue. If you like what you see on tape, you sign him, right? He's young. He's only 25 years old. There's a lot to like with Paulson Adebo. I wouldn't be upset if they went that direction. You got to sign somebody in free agency. And you could just ask Marshawn Lattimore, hey, how good is this Paulson Adebo kid? He played with him in New Orleans. He'll be able to tell you, hey, that kid got some talent. Or, nah, I wouldn't do it, right? They're not going to base their decision off of what Marshawn Lattimore tells them. But you want to know what his work ethic is like. You want to know what this dude is about. Is he a competitor, et cetera, et cetera. You could ask Marshawn Lattimore. He'll be able to tell you. And he'll be honest with you. So you keep going. Michael Jackson, Darryl Worley, Justin Hardy, Troy Hill, Artie Burns. Damn, I didn't even know Artie was still in the league. Jalen Mills, Eli Apple, Fabian Moreau, Hey, Fabe. Fabe's still in the league, holding on. Cam Sutton, Elijah Molden, Ifatu Felanwanu, Melanthonwu, Brandon Stevens, Lonnie Johnson, Troy Brown, Amani Oruwariye, Bryce Hall, David Long, Kilo Witherspoon. He's very interesting. Akello was in San Francisco with Adam Peters, and he got his life together in LA with the Rams. And he's not going to cost you a lot either. He had some interceptions, I felt like. He had 3 last year. He only had 1 this year. Now, he dealt with some injuries this season. I do know that. As you can see, the snap count was way down this year, opposed to last year where he played over 1,000 snaps. Last year, it was his breakout year. He'd been underachieving pretty much his entire career. Then he has 3 interceptions, but he had a little solid run towards the end of his San Francisco career. He went to Pittsburgh in his first year there, and he had 3 interceptions very quickly. Didn't play a lot. His biggest, production was in 2023. Started all 17 games, had 3 interceptions, played really well. He's interesting. Like, he's a last-ditch fallback plan type of guy. Is a Killer Witherspoon. I wouldn't want him, as plan 1, 2, A, B, none of that. But if you get to plan D and you had to fall back on somebody, a Killer Witherspoon is not the worst option in the world. James Pierre, who we had in camp, Michael Ford, Kevin King, Darnay Holmes, Elijah Riley, Caleb Farley, Kadar Holman, Isaiah Rogers. Let's see if there are any other names. No other names. Hey, Greg Stroman, our guy Greg. Stro! So that is the list of corners. You should be able to come away with one out of this group. There's probably about a good 7, 8 dudes that I wouldn't mind them signing, in addition to Noah Igbenogany, Carlton Davis, Charvarius Ward. I wouldn't be upset. I just don't think he fits what they're looking for, DJ Reed or Byron Murphy, but I wouldn't be upset at either one of those dudes. They both can ball. Wouldn't be, I'm not looking for a Killer Witherspoon, but I'm wouldn't be upset if that was your last option. Again, that shouldn't stop you from drafting a rookie. Paulson Adebo is another name that interests me. So it's a number of guys here. You got to come away with something. I don't see how we don't get Charvarius Ward. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And don't think we need safety, but we can look at safety and then we can look at kicker and then we'll get out of here. So Justin Reed, again, Jeremy Chin is the centerpiece to all of this. If you don't bring back Jeremy Chin, then you do need a safety. All right. So keep that in mind. You bring Chin back, then you don't need a safety. And I think they really like the way Jeremy Chin played. Let's see what his market value. He made $4 million last year. They got his market value at $6 million. I think he's going to make more along the lines of 8. I could see them signing him to a 3-year, $24 million deal. I could see that. And him being back. I think they like him a lot. If that happens, then you don't need a safety. You still got Quan, you got him, you got Jeremy Reeves. I feel like I'm missing one more person. And you got Percy. Yeah, Percy's still on the roster. I don't think Percy is a free agent. I think he got one more year left, if I'm not mistaken. So That's 4, and then I think you could add a rookie, and that would give you a 5th safety. It's an inexpensive position. Like, this is not a position you want to spend a ton of money on, right? So there are options. Justin Reed, who's playing in the Super Bowl, Justin Simmons. The best of his career might be behind him. We'll see. Xavier Woods, Jeremy Chin, we talked about him already. Julian Blackman, Jordan Fuller, MJ Stewart, Quandre Diggs, DeMonte KZ, Ashton Davis. Javon Holland is a guy that I know a lot of people like. He's really, really good. I would assume he's going to make somewhere in the $14 million range. Let's see. 15. I knew it. He's really good. You got to pay for that kind of safety. I don't think they're willing to spend that kind of money at the position, honestly speaking. I could be wrong. He's really good, and he does a lot of things. Doesn't have a lot of ball production, but forced a fumble, had a sack, 15 games, 12 the year before, 3 forced fumbles the year before, and an interception. So played all 17 in 2022, had 2 sacks that year, a forced fumble, and 2 interceptions. So he's a guy that's just filling up the stat sheet. 3 sacks his rookie season, 2 interceptions that year. So he's a guy that's around the football. He's a guy that you can blitz, do some different things with. He's got speed. He's interesting. I don't think they're going to be in the market for someone of his caliber that's going to command that kind of money. But we will see. Somebody asked me about Trayvon Merrick. I think it was Kevin the PRF, if I'm not mistaken. And I said, he's solid, but he's not better than Jeremy Chin. He's not better than Jeremy Chin. So it'd be like a lateral move. And personally, I think Chin is probably better than him. So I don't see them going in that direction. Andre Cisco. Let's check on him. See what Andre Cisco is talking about. So they said roughly 11 million. No, this guy was a big ball production guy coming out of Syracuse. So 1 interception last year, but the year before that he had 4 and a forced fumble. The year before that he had 3. So this is a guy that can take it away here in Andre Cisco. How healthy has he been? Because he had injury concerns coming out of Syracuse. 16 games played, 14 starts, 15 the year before that, 15. So he's been relatively healthy in his NFL career too. So that's another guy that you could throw around as a potential guy you could bring in that can play the middle of the field. But they got a guy, Quan Martin. If they were looking for a safety, it would probably be more in the strong safety mold. But again, your safeties in today's NFL got to be able to rock and roll, right? So don't know if that really matters or not. Talanoa Hufanga, he had him at San Francisco. So I think like he's like a Jeremy Chin replacement. If Chin left in free agency, they couldn't reach a deal with him. He got crazy money somewhere else. This would be, I think, the replacement for him. Now, again, this is a lot of money. I don't know if I don't think he's going to get that kind of money out on the market. I just don't. Safeties aren't being paid this kind of money unless you're elite. That's when you hit, 13, 14 million a year. He's not that. So I think he's more in that $6 to $8 million range per year. And so he'll be interesting to see what happens with Talanoa Hufanga. Being that Adam Peters has a history with him, I wouldn't be shocked if we don't have Jeremy Chin, that Talanoa Hufanga ends up being a guy that they may kick the tires on. So that's the safety position. There's Derek Forrest, an old friend. Darius Washington has played really well. He's a restricted free agent, though. All right. So let's go to place kicker real quick, see if there's any interesting kickers available. Nick Folk, 40 years old, too damn old. Matt Prater, 40 years old, too damn old. Eddie Pinheiro, don't got a big enough leg. Michael Badgley, don't have a big enough leg. Joey Sly got a big ass leg, but it's inaccurate. Brandon McManus, I'm over him. He pissed me off last year, to be honest with you. Greg Joseph, I'm good. We got Zane Gonzalez, which we should bring him back. Austin Seibert, I wonder if they're going to bring him back. We got 2 kickers on this list. Only team with 2 kickers on this list. You know your kicking game ain't shit when you got 2 kickers on the list. K. York, he was in Washington too last year. Look how crazy this is. Brandon McManus was in Washington last year. Zane Gonzalez was in Washington last year. Austin Seibert was in Washington last year. Kate York was in Washington last year. That's how wild and wacky our season was last season. I mean, there's nothing here. So my advice would be bring Zane back and get you a late round undrafted kicker and bring him into camp and let him compete. There you have it. Free agency. We went hunting tonight. I found us some free agents. Now the key is, do they agree with me? And we'll do this again as we get a little bit closer. We start to hear some of the guys that they're going to re-sign. Once that starts to take place, it will give us a clearer picture of, what direction they may or may not go in. But I've given you the guys that I'm interested in, but we'll see what happens when franchise tags start being placed on players and teams start re-signing their own. Like a guy like Alaric Jackson, who I think, the Rams should re-sign. They may not. We talked about Tee Higgins already. Will he be back in Cincinnati? Maybe not. We'll see. So a lot of interesting things to discuss. That said, let's get to the comment section. All right. Start off with video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, video channel writes, Lou, you stood tall in the Super Friends stream. ELGSES fans want to see you hurt bad out here reaching like a bad defender. We got your back. Yeah, it was a rough one last night, man. But, you lose by 32 points. Got to take it on the chin, man. Pause. I knew what I was walking into yesterday. And I went in there with a specific game plan and I executed it. Maybe not as well as I wanted to, but I executed it and I was happy with the results. Maybe not the execution, but definitely happy with the results. But that's the thing I love about y'all is I know y'all got my back and I appreciate y'all for that. It's a cold, evil world out there, man. Got to have people having your back. Bloodshot Sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, what up, Lou? I watched Super Friends yesterday. Boy, you stood on business yesterday. LOL. Yeah, it was rough. It was a rough one. But again, we knew if we didn't come out with that victory, it's going to be even worse if they win the Super Bowl. Like, oh my God. If there is a football God, they got to come through for us on Sunday. They got to come through for us on Sunday. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy JP writes, there's only 3 guys I'm willing to break the bank, give up assets for. Myles Garrett, Tee Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson, despite his age. So Trey Hendrickson has 1 year left on his deal. I don't think they're going to trade him, personally. He's too good.
So either they're going to extend him this year or they're going to tell him shut up and play like they did last year, which I don't know if he's going to go for this year. He played ball last year. He was a good Samaritan last year. He then went out and led the league in sacks. I don't know if he's going to play, good Samaritan again this year. So that'll be interesting to see. Higgins, I don't want to trade anything for him. I'm kind of being stubborn because, again, in my mind, he was free in terms of draft capital. I didn't have to give up any of that. I just had to sign him. And now if you attach a pick to him, it may be a little too much for me to stomach because I already know I got to, pay him as well. But I might have to get out of my feelings on that and be like, look, man, it's Tee Higgins, bro. Do you want to give up a 3? Do you want Tee Higgins or not? Because if it just costs you a 3 to get him, now if they like jack up the price, because again, a team like New England might be so thirsty that they might be able to, jack up the price to a 2. I'm out. I'm just telling you right now, I'm out. If it's a 2 for Tee Higgins, not when he was supposed to cost me nothing. I'd rather go give up a 2 for Garrett Wilson or DK Metcalf at that point. Because at least I don't have to pay them right now as well. Right? So, yeah. We'll see. And Myles Garrett, I think I won't speak for anybody else out there. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get Myles Garrett. I'm willing to do just about whatever it takes to get Myles Garrett here. So, yeah. I'm with you on that. And I'd trade for Trey Hendrickson, but again, they're not going to give him away. And you got to pay him, right? And you got to pay him. And like you said, he is up there in age. Art by Rapid, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Art by Rapid writes, what up, Lou? What's up, Art? Or what up, Rapid? Excuse me. What are your honest thoughts on Myles? Do you think AP will break the bank on Myles Garrett? Yeah, well, I think if he's available, Adam Peters will go get him. I don't think he would hesitate to go get him. The problem is I don't know if he'll be available. But if he becomes available, I think Adam Peters will do whatever it takes to get him. Now, the question is, do you have enough draft capital to outbid a team like, say, Philadelphia? Because I think Philadelphia has more draft capital than we do. So Philadelphia could, do the thing where, hey, we'll give you 3 first-round picks, 2 this year, 1 next year. I don't know if Philadelphia has 2 first-round picks this year or not, but it feels like they got 2 first-round picks in every year's draft. If they don't got 2 1s, they got 2 2s. If they don't got 2 2s, they got 2 3s. If they don't got 2 3s, they got 2 4s. They got 2 in one of these rounds. Because that's what they do. So I don't know if we can offer all the things that Philadelphia can, though. That's when it gets a little scary. You're like, do we have enough? But I don't think he would be afraid to go after him, is what I would tell you. Fuento, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Fuento writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Fuento? I'm speaking purely hypothetically, or purely hypothetical here instead of Myles Garrett. Would you give up 2 first-round picks for Abdul Carter? I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't watched him enough to say if I would or wouldn't. I just listening to other people talk about him. He's supposed to be really good. But here's the thing. I would be more inclined to give up 2 1s for Myles Garrett because I know what he is in this league. We have no idea what Abdul Carter is in the NFL. We know what he is at the collegiate ranks. And he's not a specimen like Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is ridiculous. Like I said, he's going to age well. He's massive. Pause. Like Jaden Daniels said, he did like 50 million interviews over the last 2 days on Radio Row. And I don't remember who he was sitting down with, but they asked him, like, what was his welcome to the NFL moment? You know, when you put Jaden on the spot, it's hard for him to come up with something. But after a while of sitting there and thinking, he was like, yo, my welcome to the NFL moment was in week 5 against Cleveland. He said when he was captain that week, he went out to midfield and he saw Myles Garrett and he's like, bro, like that guy's going to be chasing after me. Like that's what they look like in the NFL right there. He's like, he looked like a cartoon character. Myles Garrett is freakish, bro. That's not Abdul Carter. Now, I'm not telling you Abdul Carter won't come in here and be Von Miller, you know, but we don't know that. We know what Myles Garrett is. And that's why you give up 2 first-round picks or maybe even, you know, 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, and, you know, whatever you got to give up, whatever the asking price is. I would be able to tell you if I felt comfortable giving up that kind of capital for Abdul Carter probably in 2 weeks. But right now, I'd probably say no, just based off of the fact that he hasn't done it at this level. You're giving up that kind of draft capital. And rarely do you give up that kind of draft capital for a non-quarterback. That's rare. It's not impossible. I think the Texans traded back up. Now, I don't know what they gave up when they traded back up to get Will Anderson. I'd imagine it wasn't 2 first-round picks, though. Jacob Cortez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Jacob writes, Lou, let me hear it for our rookie of the year. I got 5 on it. You know what it is, man. So happy for JD, man. Well-deserved. And looking for great things for him. Maybe next year it'll be MVP. Maybe it'll be league MVP next year. Speaking of which, who won league MVP? Huh? Who won league MVP? Did Lamar get it or did Josh Allen get it? My guess is, and I've been saying it, I don't think that like voter fatigue was going to set in and they weren't going to give it to Lamar, even though he probably deserved it. Josh Allen played really well this season. And at one point after they beat Detroit, it was almost like, okay, it's over, but it wasn't over. Right. They lost to the Rams the following week, I believe. So I'm going to say Josh Allen won it, though. And looking at the comment section, Josh Allen. Okay, yeah. No. Figured that would be the case. And I think that was strictly voter fatigue. If Lamar didn't win it last year, I think he would have won it this year. And Josh Allen, and not to take anything away from Josh Allen, he played really well this year. And he deserved to be in that discussion. But Lamar should have won league MVP. 41 touchdowns, man. Only 4 turnovers. Then you add in like 7 rushing touchdowns. I think he accounted for like 48 touchdowns. That's ridiculous. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, C-Mac, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Chris, writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Chris? Hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise. 4 questions. Shoot. 1, what are reasonable expectations for Daniels in year 2 and why? 2 and 3, what are 3 metrics on offense and defense that need to be better this season and why? And 4, who do you expect the starting personnel on the D-line to be and why? All right, so let's knock these down one by one. We start with your first one. Reasonable expectations for Jaden Daniels in year 2 and why? I think reasonable expectations are for him to be more dynamic as a passer outside of the pocket. I thought we saw flashes of that this year. I think that is, again, I talked about that being the natural evolution for him. He did not eclipse 4,000 yards passing this season. that's an expectation for me next season, is him to eclipse 4,000 yards passing. Keep in mind that he missed basically 2 games, we'll call it. Almost all of the Carolina game, half of the Cowboys' second game, a quarter against Cleveland, and probably, I'd say, another quarter, half a quarter against Arizona, maybe. So he missed pretty much 2 games this season worth of opportunities to put up more yards and things of that nature. So 4,000 yards plus. And I think the expectation is for him to lower the interception count. I think will we get to 9 this year, I believe, just shy of double digits, if I'm not mistaken. I might have given him an extra 2 because the number is either 7 or 9. I think it was 9 though. And I don't know where the touchdown passes ended up being. I don't think he eclipsed 30. I think the record is 32 for our franchise, if I'm not mistaken, or is it 29? I think it's 32. Whatever the number is, I think he could approach that, But the expectation is for him to continue to grow, become more comfortable inside and outside the pocket, remain a passer, negate some of the negative plays. Look, I'm willing to take the, sack here, the negative play here or there for him trying to make something happen because that's part of his game. I want to see him take more shots down the field. I think, this year he was, more so just, hey, let me get it out of my hands, get it to a playmaker. But when those opportunities present, I would like to see him take the shots down the field. So I want to say 30 plus touchdowns. I want a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. So if it's 7 interceptions, then 28 touchdowns or more. If it's 8 interceptions, then 32 touchdowns or more. If it's 6, then all you need is 24. But whatever it is, 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I need him over 800 yards rushing again. That's a part of his game that I want to see him continue to keep. It'd be great to see him go over, 900 or even eclipse 1,000 and add his name to a very illustrious group of quarterbacks who have rushed for 1,000 yards in an NFL season. Not many have done that. Very small group. I would love to see him join that group, but I don't know if that's realistic in year 2 or not. But, he almost did it in his rookie season, just fell short. So it is plausible. But above all else, get us back to the playoffs, win the division. These are lofty expectations, but he's capable. He's capable. His shoulders are broad. And the reason why is because he's one of them ones to whom much is given, much is expected. We know he's capable, so now we expect it. And I'm not looking for any sophomore slump. I'm not looking for any regression from him. He's only up from here. 2 and 3. What are 3 metrics on offense and defense that need to be better this season and why? On offense, got to protect the quarterback better, got to run the ball better, right? So those are 2 that stand out right away. Is we just got to, up front, we got to be better, got to be better running the football, right? Got to be better pass protecting. Not that they were terrible in that regard. They actually were pretty damn good at, for most of the year, but by no means were they good enough, especially late. And then I would say explosive plays. We didn't have enough of those, obviously.
our drives were like, death by 1,000 cuts. We had a 19, play drive against Philadelphia in the championship game, and it led to a field goal. Like, that's cool, but boy, a 35-yard game would sure help a lot. Like that Lions game is ideal. A lot of big explosives in that game. That's what you're looking for. Not all right, but you got to take what the defense is giving you too. And they weren't giving up big plays. They weren't giving up chunks. Take what you can get. So those would be the three. Pass protect a little bit better, run block a hell of a lot better, and then more explosive plays. Defensively, you got to force more turnovers. Like that goes without saying. You got to stop the run better. That goes without saying. I mean, those are the two that stand out and stick out like a sore thumb. We have got to affect the run game better. We've got to force turnovers. And I'd tell you the last one would probably be we've got to do a better job of getting to the quarterback. Even though we weren't terrible in that department, we weren't great there either. So I'd tell you that's the third and final metric is we got to get to the quarterback a little bit more. And then lastly, who do you expect to be the starting personnel on the defensive line? Hard to say because Dorrance Armstrong is starting at one defensive end. Allen and Payne are starting at defensive tackle. I don't think they're getting traded this offseason. Although I would not be shocked if they did, I don't think they will. And then our starting defensive end isn't on the roster right now. The other starting defensive end isn't on the roster right now. I'd love it to be Myles Garrett, but I don't think it'll be Josh Sweat. I don't know. I don't know who that other guy is right now. Could be Khalil Mack. Could be anybody, really. But I can tell you that other starting defensive end isn't on the roster right now. He's not currently a Washington Commander. The other three are, though. The other three are. JP Lavecchio. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy JP writes. JPL. We already got a JP. JPL writes. Chase Young had 5.5 sacks and a career-high 21 QB hits last year. He had 47 hurries and 66 pressures, according to PFF, which both ranked inside the top 7 among pass rushers. Thoughts? Good for him. That's what I would say. Good for him. I'm not interested in bringing him back here. And maybe he played better because he got away from home. His family had a lot of interesting things to say when he left here, including he didn't need to play at home. I just don't see a reunion here, and especially with how he performed in San Francisco while Adam Peters was there. I don't think he's interested in bringing him back here, but I'm not opposed to it. Again, I'm going to roll with whatever Chef P cooks up, but I just don't see Chase Young. And again, I think he is on that Jadeveon Clowney plan. Like, he's a hired gun now. So next year he might be, a Tennessee Titan or a New England Patriot on a 1-year, $12 million deal. Like that's his new life. Maybe somebody gives him a multi-year deal. I doubt it. He's a hired gun at this point. So I don't think we're looking to hire him. I don't think he's a hired gun here. But I'm glad he played well. I got no animosity towards Chase Young. None whatsoever. Hope he plays well the remainder of his career. But I'm looking for more over there. Looking for more. So hopefully we can find someone that can produce more.
JLG, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JLG, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, not to go off topic, but I realize we only have 4 draft picks in the top 6 rounds. I guess this puts a bigger emphasis on free agency this year. So you remember, Chef P likes to cook in those latter rounds too. So don't you worry. Like, understand that he's going to trade back at some point and pick up more picks. Like, that's why I can't imagine that he's going to give away any more picks, because we have a first, a second, a third. The third is not our own. It's the Dolphins one that we got in the trade. I don't think we have a 4th round pick. I think we have a 5th, and I don't think we have a 6th. I'm not sure. But I already told you I wouldn't be shocked if we traded out of the first round altogether. Trade it back, and that's gonna net you the extra draft capital that you need. That'll probably give you an additional 2. Depending on how far back you're going in the second round, might score you a 3, another 3, might score you a 4, and you might be able to throw in a 6 or something like that. So you just got to see what that market looks like, and can you get somebody to come back into the first round, right? If not, it could be the second round that's the round they end up moving back in, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be the first round. When you're that far back in each round, there's a possibility for you to trade back. So we'll see. But I don't know if that puts a greater emphasis on free agency as much as it like forces them to really make sure they hit on those picks. You know, not because free agency not going to save you. It just puts greater emphasis on those particular picks that you're making to say, hey, we got to do our work and we can't miss here. Right? Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly, or thank you for being a member for 12 months. You made it to your 1-year anniversary. Hey, Duncan. All right. Talk about this after the Super Bowl, because no one cares about this. Give the people what they want and talk about the Eagles. Don't be a fraud, man, and be right out for once, Lou. Look, enjoy your week. It's all about your Eagles, obviously, and the Chiefs. And after this week, then you'll be joining everyone else in the offseason, and either you'll be joining everyone in the offseason as a champ or as a chump. We hope you're joining as a chump, but either way, you'll be joining the rest of us. So we'll see what happens, but of course everyone cares about what I'm talking about tonight. You care. That's why you're here, right? You know, deep down inside, you're a Commanders fan. We had this conversation already. Meh. Gear Cell 1. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Gear Cell writes, hey, Lou. Proud of the way you showed heart last night. It proved that Philly fans have no class and wear skinny jeans with mustard stains and silk stockings. Tragic. Philly fans are definitely cut from a different cloth, but when it's all said and done, I appreciate y'all, man. I really, truly do. Yeah, last night was rough, you know, having to go in there, knowing that they're waiting on you. And it ain't much you can say. I mean, again, had the game been close, I would have been able to go in there and talk my shit. But that's one of them ones where you just got to sit there and take it. You lost 55-23. So what you going to do, right? Even the things you want to argue about, it's hard to, because nobody wants to hear you complaining about this or that in a game in which you gave up 55 points, a double nickel. Like, it's just tough, man. Like, with every point we gave up in that game, I was like, okay, don't give up 40. All right, you give up 40. All right, I thought we were going to stop in the 40s. When Shipley ripped off that run, I'm like, oh my God, we're going to give up 50 effing points. Are you kidding me? Like, this is getting even worse. It's bad enough they already took their starters out and the game's over. You know, give up a touchdown to their backups, but we let the rope go. We let the rope go. They definitely got mustard stains for sure on their clothes. Derek B. Or excuse me, Dr. B. Excuse me. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Dr. B. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Dr. B writes, Lou, when you told LB he has some bitch assness in him, I died. That boy got triggered. Eagles fans can't handle JD5's success. I got 5 on it. Hell. So the crazy part is Eagles fans have been saying some of the craziest things to me, bro. Craziest stuff to me. And as disappointed as I was in the crazy stuff that they were saying, I was more disappointed in the fact that our play in that game allowed them to be able to have a chance to say the crazy shit that they were saying. Because, again, one, I didn't think we were going to lose the game. Like, LB was saying some wild shit last night. Like, oh, you knew you were going to lose. You know, you had to ride with your team, but you knew you were going to lose. Nobody comes into the lane. And because they win, they have that sense, that aura of invincibility. Like, we don't lose NFC championship games at home. As a matter of fact, we blow everybody out. And that's what they've done. So until the narrative is switched, until somebody changes that narrative, they can boast and make those claims. And I thought we were going to be the one to change all of that. Even if we didn't win, it was going to be close. And we made so many mistakes and ended up getting, and the thing that really pissed me off is now they want to validate or invalidate the week 16 win. Or you see what would happen if Hurts would have stayed in the game. And I'm like, no, they called penalties that bailed you out on a number of drives where you would have had to kick field goals like you did when you played us in week 16. And even with all that said, forget about all that. The fumbles, the mistakes, it was still 34-23, the same exact spot we were in week 16. With the ball late in the third quarter, driving with a chance. Just like in week 16, when we were down 27-14, heading into the final quarter, he had just broken the run on the 4th and 11, and we were driving for points. The only difference is, instead of us continuing to possess the ball and being in a position to score to start the fourth, Eckler fumbles, and the whole game switches up. And so that was frustrating because they didn't, and then this whole narrative of Jaden Daniels was mid. Like, I'm not even going to go back and forth with him on that, right? Because in his mind, he's made his mind up because our quarterback is better than his. He doesn't want to admit that. So he's going to make every excuse in the book. He's going to try to demean him at every turn. Oh, he was mid. He was missing throws. He was under duress the entire game. And again, he gave us a chance in that game. Unfortunately, we've already went through that whole song and dance of, you know, the guys that showed up in that game and gave us a chance. You know, it's just a shame that we had all the mistakes, but got to give them credit too. They forced those turnovers, right? Every turnover we had in the game, they forced it, with the exception of the Jeremy McNichols play. He ran into the back of his teammate and fumbled the ball, which usually happens when you run into your teammate unexpectedly. You normally fumble the ball because you're not bracing yourself for contact. So it's unfortunate. Mr. Yeto, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB.
Mr. Yero writes, Yo, Lou, any rookies you like so far? I like the UNLV wide receiver, Ricky White. Dude, seems like a dog. Plus, he's a captain and a special teams ace. F the Eagles. Haven't watched any rookies yet. Those are conversations that'll take place. So the combine is late February. So later on this month is the combine. It's, I think, February 24th through like March the 3rd or something like that. So by then, if I haven't already started to do a deep dive into the draft, that will be my introduction. No matter what's going on, once the combine hits, that's when I'm like, all right, I usually I'm already have started because usually we suck ass. And so I've already been looking at prospects, and I try to go into the combine with a working knowledge of these guys. I have none right now. But I think I'm going to start that journey on next week, because now I've really gotten into the free agency crop in the pool. That's what tonight was about. Feel comfortable where I am with that. We'll revisit free agency, obviously, as we get closer, but now kind of shift a little bit towards the draft as we get a little bit, now that once that Super Bowl happens, you can close the book on 2024 officially and start to really turn your attention to the offseason in its totality, which would also include the draft. So, and yes, F the Eagles. I totally agree with you wholeheartedly. JB, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. JB writes, Lou, Higgins or Garrett? I'll take Garrett. Without question, Garrett. That's not even up for a debate. Our quarterback showed last year that he can thrive without greatness at the receiver position, on the other side of Terry, right? That's not the world and the environment we want him to live in. It's not the ecosystem we want to create for him. However, he can't control what happens on the defensive side, right? So I'll take my chances with 5 with the ball in his hands, with whomever you put around him. Again, our job, or their job, excuse me, is to put more talent around him so he doesn't have to be super bad and he doesn't have to put the cape on. But I trust him with the ball in his hands is my point. What I don't trust is the defense. And he can't save the defense unless he's on the field. So why not go get a guy that doesn't need Jaden Daniels to save him? He can help save Jaden Daniels, right? We don't have that guy currently. Myles Garrett is that guy. So last year, we couldn't close games unless the offense had the ball in their hands. Myles Garrett can close football games for you. Myles Garrett can single-handedly change a game. Tee Higgins is cool, but there's only one Myles Garrett. So, yeah, I'd take Garrett in a heartbeat. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. If you haven't already done so, do me a huge favor. Hit the like button. All right. Doesn't cost you a thing, but it helps this channel grow exponentially. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done that. Pretty sure you have, but if you haven't, please do me a favor. Hit that. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Enjoy the rest of your week into the weekend. We'll be back for the Super Bowl. For those of you who are staunch supporters of the Louie T Network podcast, we'll be back tomorrow with a fresh installment of the Louie T Network podcast where we'll be breaking down and predicting the outcome for Super Bowl 59. I've already given you my prediction on multiple platforms, but we will do it here on this one once again tomorrow. And then when the game has met its conclusion, you know where to find me as soon as it's done here
on the Louie T Network. I may do a watch party for it. I may not. We'll see. More likely than not, we'll probably not do one. But I'll see what my wife wants to do. If she's like, no, go ahead, you can work, then I'll probably do one. But if she's like, no, I want to watch the game with you, then I won't do it. So we'll see. Either way, I'll be here as soon as the game's over. You know where to find me for overtime. So anyway, I'll see you guys then. You guys have a good one. Oh, got one more before we get out of here. Swaggy P, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Swaggy P, writes, hit the like button and F the Eagles. Go Chiefs. Go Chiefs. Well said. Well said. Go Chiefs. Please, Kansas City. I've never wanted a team to win a game more that wasn't my own. Please, Kansas City. Beat the damn Eagles. I'll be rooting like hell for them on Sunday evening. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, you guys take care. God bless. Good night. Cheer.